the 3-4 scheme or not. I think last night, not to a certain degree that all questions were answered defensively, but I think the majority is what you came out and understand that this team has a lot of team speed. You look at the stats, Arkansas was able to hold the Rattlers to 77 yards rushing, 95 yards passing for a total of 172 yards. 9 first downs. They were also 3 of 15 on third down. So this defense was able to get off of the football field, were able to create turnovers as Arkansas had a scoop and score. Gabe Richardson was able to juggle the ball loose. Andre Tolliver picks it up and runs it in for about an 18-yard touchdown. But Demetrius, what say you on Arkansas in their inaugural game of the 3-4 defense?
Again, I think they came out a little rusty. I think they needed a little bit more continuity amongst the receivers and the offensive line. But I think a lot of the problem was just the offensive line hasn't gelled in. They moved around a lot of bodies, a lot of interchanging parts. Johnny Gibson, Ty Clary. So there was a lot of adjustments made during the game. So
I really was impressed with Ty Clary. This is the kid from Fayetteville High School, walked on, was a preferred walk-on, I should say, and really stepped into camp from almost day one with the intent on trying to make a name for himself and get himself in a position to be able to contribute his true freshman year. I had the privilege of watching Ty throughout his junior high and high school career, and he'd always been that leader on the offensive line, a guy that you knew, on third and short, you need a great pass pro, third and long, he was going to be the guy to come through for you. He was always that leader of the Fayetteville High defense, haven't had a chance to win back-to-back state championships. And, it really helped, I believe, Ty in the fact that he was able to play against a guy of the caliber of Akil Byers, true freshman, Under Armour All-American that has moved on and attends Missouri University. And we had Danny Jones on of the Daily Columbian, and he talked about Akil, said Akil, had it not been for the injuries, Demetrius, this is a young man that, Coach Oldham and that defensive staff were projecting to get some playing time in his true freshman year. So when you have guys like that you play against, were you surprised that Ty was able to come in and handle the starting job? I know Coach B said in our post-game interview with him last evening that they had known for about 10 days Ty was going to get it. Do you think he handled that preparation quite nicely?
Definitely, from what I seen last night, I can say yes. But, the true test is next week and going into the SEC conference to really know. Because, again,
right.
Yetta had a great game.
Right.
I remember who it was. It was Texas State or one of them. He had a great game. But then, coming against guys that are up to your caliber weight-wise, up to your caliber physicality-wise, and I just feel like it's going to be a whole nother beast. So he's really just going to have to turn it up a notch. I believe he really came out strong. Definitely don't want to take anything away from him because, again, he's a freshman. Just to get some real college reps against guys that are actually older than you, was the positive thing. And, again, from what I heard from Frank right now saying he called out some of the right calls, and, Austin Allen saying how great he adjusted to game-like situations, I really have to commend him.
Austin was the guy, I think, he stated in his press conference, his post-game press conference last night, that they kind of were eager to make real big plays, from the get-go when they took the field that first series. And sometimes you can be overhyped, and I thought that's what this football team came into. But, they really were able to settle down after about that third series, went on a nice drive with Deadwall Whaley capping it with a 5-yard touchdown run and get Arkansas on the scoreboard in 2017. I thought once they had established that, you could kind of see the offense kind of settling in. And I know a lot of people, left the stadium really concerned about the wide receivers. Those are young guys that are going to make a name for themselves. They're just going to have to come along slowly. I thought the tight end spot, C.J. O'Grady and Austin Cantrell, I thought Jeremy Patton, I thought Jack Krause, I thought Will Gregg, I thought they blocked really, really well. And you can kind of see that their role in the offensive scheme, game plan will continue to expand. But like you say, you always know that there's going to be a big jump from game one to game two. The wide receivers are going to have to, step forward against TCU. Have Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium this upcoming Saturday as the level of competition does step up. Also, too, think that at the tackle spot, Colton Jackson had a fair game. I won't say he had a bad game. I'll just call it a fair game. There are still some question marks on that offensive line. I think the one thing this team has to, get better at is being more physical at the point of attack, Demetrius. Is that something that you agree with as well on the offense of getting more push? Because like you said, in that 3rd and 1 in that very first series, you're supposed to get that first down, and you just can't have plays like that when it's been a stigma and question marks that kind of you have to shake. Is that what you saw?
Definitely. I was really expecting them to really come out and dominate. They just didn't dominate the way how I had in my head with the way they were raving about a lot of these guys in the offseason and how much progress they really made. I just really wasn't pleased. I think as the season goes, they're definitely going to make that jump, but I think they're going to have to make that jump at a rapid pace if they really want to get to that 8-win season. A lot of people have been saying, that left tackle spot is really a concern. You can really kind of see that it was on Austin Allen's mind too. He looked a little jittery at the beginning of the game, and I think that's due to not really just feeling confident in your offensive line. There's a few plays where I think there was one play where Frank Ragnow stepped on his foot or he tripped over his foot.
Right.
That's unlike Austin. We didn't really see that. But then also people have to take into consideration that this is just Austin's 2nd year starting. So it's not like he has a plethora of SEC games and just starting games under his belt. So I think it's just really going to take a lot of time. He had a little bit more senior guys around him and a little continuity amongst the offensive line last year. And I think just with this fresh group of guys, they're just really going to have to kind of go back to the drawing board and kind of go back to those basic fundamentals of what they're trying to do offensive-wise with the offensive line.
I totally agree with you, but we're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk to a guy here, what Andre Tolliver had to say in his post-game press conference. Talked about the defense and just talked about Paul Rhodes. You hear what Andre had to say. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins. Back in a moment.
Territory inside the 45, a gain of 16. Play clock winding down. Allen out of the shotgun. Pressure coming again. Pocket collapses as he's hit from behind, and he's picked off by Terry Jefferson, who has been all over the field for fast. Jared Cornelius is in the game, a wide receiver. Allen looking for him over the middle all day to go through his progressions in a nice spin move. Stays on his feet, and he'll chuck it complete for a first down to Austin Cantrell. So ad-lib there, and it's an 11-yard gain and a first down. His 3rd carry of the night. It's another great one. Hayden with happy feet dances his way all the way down to the 11-yard line. A gain of 13. So looking at a 3rd and 4. Whaley. He's in. Arkansas's first touchdown of the season comes from Deborah Whaley. Dominating most of the important stats. The 1 interception, the lone flip on the screen. Great penetration up front. Ball came loose, but it ended up right into the hands of the quarterback. Jeffries lost 2. They'll only rush 3. And they'll get to the quarterback. Vincent Jeffries wanted to run it out of there. McDelvin Agim had to stop for a loss. Got to get him in. Chase Hayden is in. A 16-yard strike from Allen. up the blitzing backer, and Allen able to fire one to the end zone and put the Hawks up 2 scores. 3rd and 1. And we'll see where it's spotted. Allen's offensive.
Off a punt, you got a punter running for 20-some yards.
They had a good play call, man, and they got us on that one. But yeah, I didn't want to score.
Yeah. What happened on your touchdown? Can you describe that play?
It was a screen pass, and Gabe made the tackle, popped the ball out, and when I seen that, I just scored it.
Have you been able to talk to Ryan at all about his injury?
Yeah, man. I told him we lost a brother in the secondary, and as a defense, man, we got to pick it up for Ryan. Us as defense, we love playing for Paul Rose, and losing a brother like that, man, is devastating. He's a playmaker on his defense, so we got to pick it up for him.
How do you think the freshman did on there? Bringus Curl got most of the reps.
Cam's a baller, man. I told him, he's not a freshman anymore. He has to step up, and I think he'll be good in that role.
Talk about the energy you guys show being in a new 3-4 scheme. Seems like you had a lot of always explosive players. You guys finally get to play. Is that what you guys
man. Like I said, I think this defense loves like playing for Coach Rose, and when you have a person that you love playing for, you don't want to let him down. So we out there flying to the ball, playing urgent, and as a defense, that's what you want, to make him happy.
Think about your secondary. You guys combined for 84 starts as a unit going into this game. So even without Ryan, obviously he's a critical piece of what you guys want to do. You guys still have so many guys back there.
Yeah, like I said, like Cameron, he will step up, and we'll encourage him, to keep the ball rolling without Ryan. But yeah, like you said, we made plenty of starts, with Ryan, without Ryan, we'll be fine.
What's the communication like? Because there was a lot of concern about, okay, let's set the edge, because you guys were not really able to do that all that effectively last year. But what was the communication just on the field for 4 quarters in this one?
We're just out there talking a lot, man. Those hogs and rays out there setting edges like crazy left and right. And you have no defense without an edge.
Welcome back. It's our Friday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk. Recapping Arkansas' win last night, their 49-7 win over the Florida A&M Rattlers. That was audio from senior cornerback Andre Tolliver. Talked about, just the love that they have playing for Coach Paul Rhodes, the energy that he brings to that side of the football, and also too, with the loss of Ryan Pulley, true freshman Cameron Curl steps in at the cornerback spot. I thought, Cameron for the most part played a very solid football game in that role, having to come in, in his opening debut. I know that's a lot for a true freshman, but Cameron's one of those type of guys with the mentality that he can handle it. The kid's already about 6'1", 195 or so pounds, a real big corner. So I think he's going to be able to handle that, going forward to me. So I want you to talk about the true freshman having to step in and how you thought he fared at that spot last night. And then, let's play just a devil advocate. Ryan Pulley's out, going up against a team like TCU a week from tomorrow in Razorback Stadium with a true freshman corner. I personally think Arkansas is probably going to go with senior Kevin Richardson. But if Cameron's anointed the starter, what say you on his performance? But first, I want to talk about how you thought he performed in last night's competition, and then we'll attack the second part of that question.
Let's start off with the first part. How he played last night. I thought he played exceptional. I think there was definitely room for improvement, but I would say that about anybody, myself including. So I definitely think he played a solid game for a freshman. He didn't look like he didn't know what he was doing. He looked like he was thinking a little too much, but it wasn't that he didn't know what he was doing. I think he was just making sure he was doing the right things. But I think once he can play and not think so much and really just move around and be comfortable out there, I think he's really going to be a great addition to that secondary. Some things that I think he can really improve in is get a little bit more aggressive in that bump and run. I kind of felt like there was times in that games where he was given a little too much cushion, and that led to a lot of first downs that I think Arkansas really could have prevented those guys, because the starters really did a great job limiting the offense to really getting yards from Florida A&M. So again, I think the young man did a great job. Now going into next week, I'm not sure really what Bielema is. He did mention Kevin Richardson, like you said, filling that void if Ryan Pulley doesn't play, which I'm pretty sure. I think Cameron Curl can definitely do it. I think that's really going to be a target of TCU. If I'm an offensive coordinator, I'm definitely going to pick on the freshman. So going into just preparation this week, he has to really understand that guys are really going to be looking for where he's lined up on the field and really be trying to attack the offense and gear him as the weak link on the defense.
One thing I really enjoyed in watching this secondary last night is you can tell the experience factor from a guy like Andre Tolliver, Josh Willardale, Santos Ramirez, also DeAndre Cooley, and Kevin Richardson. You have 5 guys that's played a lot of collegiate football, both non-conference and in the SEC seasons for this football team. So you really feel a little, if there's a position that you feel good about with the loss of, say, Ryan Pulley, the junior cornerback, who I think is one of the top cornerbacks in the conference, it would have to be at that spot with so much experience. Also, too, you look at Chevin Callaway and Cameron Curl, 2 true freshmen that, Coach Rose feels really good about and does have, and Brito Tutt is a guy I think we failed to mention. Those 3 guys, Arkansas is about 8-9 deep in the corner and safety rotation, and that, when you have that many bodies to roll, I think you have to feel good about your prospects. I think I agree with you too, Demetrius. I think if Cameron can get a little bit more physical in the bump and run coverage, I thought there was times maybe he might have been back a little too much in coverage in the back pedal. But those are some things I think from game 1 to game 2, and as the season goes on, I anticipate both he and Chevin and Brito to get even more seasoned, because they're going to be counted on. Coach Paul Rose said earlier in the week in his press conference that he wants to rotate about 9. He believes the fresher you are, the faster you are, and I could see that in that they played a lot of bodies last night at the linebacker. Saw multiple linebackers take the field, and also too, Coach John Scott, I thought, did a great job with his rotation. I thought he played about 8 or 9 guys, kept them real fresh, so Arkansas was able to pursue the football. And that's one thing that stood out to me, Demetrius, was the pursuit of the football from last year to this year. There were times last year, and let's make a note. A lot of people forget there was not a rushing touchdown. I can think back to last year. Alcorn State had a long rushing touchdown, so when you look at that, there was roughly about 1.8 yards a carry last night, as opposed to they were almost giving up 5-6 yards a carry running the football last year. What's the difference, do you think, Demetrius, in this defensive front that you really like, based on what Arkansas came out and performed last year?
I just like the fact that they're bringing the pressure. I think on that first defensive series, I seen a blitz by Randy Ramsey. We didn't see that last year, so I'm just glad that he's really utilizing the athleticism, and you kind of seen it. There was one play where they tried to do a reverse, and D. Walker walked them down from the backside, and it was just, I'm just glad to see guys doing great fundamental football on defense. I was really hesitant about how these guys would tackle, and a lot of other things, being disciplined with their assignments, just learning a new defense, and they really surprised me. I really have to give the defense, the entire defense, kind of the MVP of that game. They really just showed a lot of discipline, and that was the most gratifying thing I took away from the game, was that they just played fundamentally sound. And anytime you have guys that can play fundamentally sound, the scheme will come. That's just guys getting reps and guys getting guys understanding where they're supposed to be. But if you have a football player that can tackle, know how to run, know how to open his hips, he'll learn any system. And I got to witness that last night, and really felt comfortable with what I seen from the defense. Now the next test is just seeing it against equal opponents, with guys that can run just as fast as you, jump just as high as you. So I'm just really eager to see how they play against even level competition amongst the defense. But I do see a drastic improvement.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch how this team prepares for the TCU Horned Frogs, who will be making their way to Fayetteville to take on the Razorbacks next Saturday in a 2:30 CBS game, the first CBS game of the year for the SEC. So it's kind of good to be able to be the first program seen on the national level. But I want to let everybody know this segment has been brought to you by Lindsay and Associates, with locations in Rogers, also 2 locations in Fayetteville. This segment also, too, has been brought to you by Locomotion. Looking for a good place to take your kids? Try Locomotion. It's located in Fayetteville, just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall. And if you don't get a chance to catch us here on our live YouTube stream of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins, you can catch us on iHeartRadio. Go download iHeart, and you can hear our podcast as we will be podcasting On the Hill with Pat Jenkins, Sports Talk Television, each and every day. But we're going to step away. There's a big one coming up in the SEC, and I'm not talking about Alabama, Florida State. We're going to head down to the swamp and talk to GatorsBreakdown's David Waters. We're going to talk Michigan versus the Florida Gators. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins. Back in a moment.
Started just this week at FAMU. Arkansas's defense coming up with a big stop on Ricky Henryless. It's a loss of 1. FAMU 1 for 8 on 3rd down tonight. 4-man rush. They're able to get to him. And they take down Vincent Jeffries. Jake Hall, the junior from Springdale. It's a lot. Trying to trip people tonight.
Welcome back. It's our Friday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins, Sports Talk TV. This segment is brought to you by Lindsay and Associates, with locations in Fayetteville, also 2 locations in Rogers. This segment is also, too, brought to you by Locomotion. Looking for a good place to take the kids? Try Locomotion. It's located in Fayetteville, just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall. And if you don't get a chance to catch us here on our live YouTube stream of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins, you can go check us out on iHeart as we podcast each and every day on iHeartRadio. On the Hill, it's in its entirety. But we want to talk about SEC football because it didn't just end last night with Arkansas and Florida A&M. It really starts for multiple SEC schools on Saturday. And we want to talk about a real big one I'm pretty sure a lot of people around the country are going to keep an eye on, and that's the Michigan-Florida Gators home opener. And we're going to take a trip down to the Swamp and catch up with Gator Breakdown's own David Waters. David, welcome to the Hill, my man.
Playing this game.
Want to talk about game keys. I know you guys have had a rash of suspensions. I believe at the moment the count is 10, may go up, who knows. But talk about the guys that are going to be there, David. How do you prepare when you've lost 10 guys? Jordan Scarlett, your starting running back, Callaway, he's not going to be there. One of the wide receivers that, Jim McElwain and the staff are really counting on to provide big playability. How does this team, compete offensively versus a Jim Harbaugh defense in kickoff tomorrow?
Pat, with missing Callaway and missing Scarlett, one thing about Callaway was at least this team was able to prepare for him, or without him for 3 weeks, basically. They knew about him being involved in the student financial aid scheme, when it was originally announced. Now, Jordan Scarlett, he was practicing and talking to the media as recently as Tuesday, and then was suspended on Wednesday. So they probably have to, figure out some things at the running back position with Michael P. Ryan and true freshman Malik Davis and Darius Lemons and Mark Thompson, who was there last year as well. So, that's your 4 guys at running back. We really look for Michael P. Ryan and Malik Davis to be the guys that Florida will count on to get this running game going. But the key is, it doesn't matter if Callaway was going to play, no matter if Jordan Scarlett was going to play. The key is getting good offensive line play and getting good quarterback play. Felipe Franks is going to make his first start, and that was announced Wednesday. And you know what? I don't think it matters who's there right now and who's not there. If Florida wasn't going to get good quarterback play and good offensive line play, they weren't going to win this game anyway.
Right.
If they get good offensive line play and get good quarterback play, they still have a very good chance of winning this game. Florida's deep at receiver. Florida's deep at running back. If they get good running back or good quarterback and offensive line play, Pat, they're still in this 100%.
When you look at Felipe Franks, a guy came out of high school, highly recruited, was once committed, I believe, to the LSU Tigers on signing day or real close there too. Flipped and came to Florida and became a Gator. If you're Jim McElwain, how do you, ease this true freshman, this redshirt freshman into the starting role versus a high-quality opponent in Michigan? Do you just kind of start it with the running game and give him a couple dink and dunk passes, or how do you when you talk or heard from Coach McElwain this week, David, what's his thought process on taking care of the true freshman?
Yeah, but Pat, I do think the running game has to get going, but it's going to be very difficult against that Michigan defensive front. And you mentioned dink and dunk passing. That won't beat Michigan, but at least if you do it early and have some success, it gets Frank's confidence early. So the big playability is going to be the difference. And if Florida can hit a few of those, then they'll be in this game. They'll stay in this game until the fourth quarter, and that's why I believe they will with Felipe Franks. He has the big play potential out of the quarterback. He has the big arm. He has the powerful arm to beat zone coverages. And now I think what you're going to see to help against this Michigan front seven that is one of the nation's best, you'll see him on some rollouts. You'll see him shift in the pocket and trying to use half-field reads to get easier reads for him and get these receivers moving and keeping that defensive line for Michigan guessing. Don't just drop straight back, and they know where you're going to be. Felipe Franks is mobile for his size, 6'6", but he's mobile. So if Florida can move the pocket, also as well, he is mobile enough to use some zone read if they need to, use some bootlegs. So I think Florida will try and keep this Michigan defensive line off balance by moving Franks around in the pocket and also bringing Malik Zaire off the bench and running some zone read and some read option plays. So while Franks will get the majority of the carries, I do expect Malik Zaire to come in and get some playing time too to maybe calm down Franks, get on the sideline and talk to the coaches while defense is on this field, and also while Malik Zaire may get a couple carries on third downs and red zone conversions and maybe some fourth down conversions if you're desperate enough or you feeling that you need to do that at that position. So I think the coaches have a game plan of where they're going to move the pocket around and keep Franks mobile and not let him sit right there as the sitting duck where this Michigan front seven can key off on him.
When you look at the defensive side of the ball for the Florida Gators versus the Michigan offense, Michigan lost quite a bit on that side of the ball, and you guys seem to be you're not going to be too shabby on the defensive side with C.C. Jefferson at the defensive end and several key defensive players that's played a lot of football. What does Florida have to do defensively to kind of ensure some success versus the Michigan offense tomorrow, David?
Win on first down, Pat. We know Jim Harbaugh's game plan is a lot like Brett Bielema and what you guys there do at Arkansas. He wants to pound the rock and then go off of that, go play action and go deep. If Florida can win first down and not let on first down runs where they gash 6-7 yards and you're holding them for short yardage plays on first down, then more than likely what they're going to do on second and third down. So if they can win first down, Florida's got a defensive line that's going to be very good coming into this game. So you mentioned C.C. Jefferson. You got young guys, Jabari Zuniga and Antonius Clayton, and the starting two tackles in Kerry Clark and Taven Bryan. Those two starters, Florida has a lot of experience there. It's the guys behind them that may be the trouble. But if Florida can stay healthy and stay tough and come out with a mentality of not getting pushed around by Michigan, and especially on first down, that's where I think the difference will be. So you cannot let Jim Harbaugh get his running game going and then play action over the top of receivers. Michigan's got some very young receivers that are going to be going against a young secondary for Florida as well. So you got some newness there in that matchup. So if Florida can control first down and get Michigan in turn, get them into third and long situations, and you know what they're going to do, and you can tee off on Wilson State, who's going to be a statue back there, then that's what I think you got to do to win this game. So the most important key for me, Pat, is win on first down.
Talking with David Waters of Gators Breakdown. David, I want to talk to you about the kicking game. Who has the advantage in this ball game? You always talk about there's three phases in a football game. Offense, defense, and special teams. If you had to choose, what say you on which team you give that edge to in this ball game?
Pat, for the kicking and punting game, it's Florida by a mile. And it's not even close there. Eddie Pinheiro, one of the nation's best field goal kickers, he can nail it from, and you feel comfortable in nailing it from anywhere from 50 to 65 yards. And we'll see if Jim McElwain trusts him enough to do that. He can do it. You see the YouTube videos out there where he's got trick shots where he's hitting 70, 75-yard field goals. Right. So we know that's a little different in a game situation, but the leg strength is there. And then Johnny Townsend, punter, is probably one of the nation's best top 2 or 3 punters there. And you got all within the SEC. You either go look at Alabama and Auburn's punters as well. He's in that group that stays there. So, Florida can control field position with Johnny Townsend. And if Michigan's not going to open up their offense at all, Florida may can keep them deep in their own territory with Johnny Townsend as a weapon, as a punter. So I think the kicking game, Florida has a big advantage there. Now the return game, Florida still got some questions of how that may turn out. But you got Brandon Powell, Dre Massey, true freshman Christopher Henderson, a guy you know very well, and Tyreek Cleveland may be the front returner for Florida as well as Christopher Henderson. So, we got some names that would go there, but we don't, it being the first game, Antonio Callaway, that's another place you're going to miss. He's a big star at punt returner. Fell down a little bit last year compared to his freshman year, but he's still a big weapon at punt returner. So, but Michigan's got some guys too they're going to rely on, and Eddie McDoom and Tariq Black and the receivers that will probably shift over. Donovan Peoples-Jones as well, that may shift over and be some return guys for them. But overall, special teams unit, Florida has a big advantage.
Talking with David Waters of Gators Breakdown. This segment is brought to you by Lindsay & Associates with locations in Fayetteville, also 2 locations in Rogers. This segment is also brought to you by Locomotion. Looking for a place to take the kids? Try Locomotion. It's in Fayetteville, just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall. And if you don't get a chance to hear us here on our live YouTube stream of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins, you can go check us on our podcast, iHeartRadio, each and every day as we let you hear it in its entirety on a daily basis. We got about a minute and a half, David, and I want to ask you, health-wise, how is Florida going into this game? And the last part of that question, Florida wins this game versus the Michigan Wolverines if they do what and why?
Health-wise, Pat, they're pretty good. What they're missing are the guys that suspended, and the 2 main guys there will refresh that. Antonio Callaway, Jordan Scott, the starting running back, starting receiver. So that's where Florida's going to hurt there. It's a switch game, injury game, not really hurting Florida too much right now. Florida wins this game, Pat, if, I said it earlier, offensive line and quarterback play come to play. Willie Clay Francis got to get off to a fast start, a confident start. Willie Zaire will come off the bench, I believe, to lead some big plays. But that's the way I see Florida winning. Staying tough on defense, playing like we know they can play on defense, that's how they'll win this game. But, Pat, I think it's going to be a little bit too difficult. I'm not sure where the focus is for the Gators right now with all the off-field issues. I probably have to go Michigan in this game, but, it will be a game. Florida will show up to Dallas ready to play, and we'll see what happens.
Well, Dave, as always, we'll come back and talk about this big ball game versus the Wolverines, and then we'll recap and look ahead to you guys. It's game number 2 versus Northern Colorado. But as always, my man, have a blessed one. Enjoy the game, and thanks for taking time out on the hill.
Thank you so much, Pat.
That was David Waters of Gators Breakdown. Nice recap. Gave us some big-time keys, Demetrius, on this Michigan-Florida game. That's going to make for a big one. I'm pretty sure a lot of people around the country's really going to be keyed in for this game. But we're going to step away. We got more audio from post-game interviews. We'll hear from sophomore outside linebacker Dejon Harris. We'll hear what Dejon has to say about the defensive performance. And also, too, he talks about Paul Rhodes. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins. Back in a moment.
Inside the 30. Go inside shoes. Hayden having a great night. Averaging 8 yards per carry. Hayden, cut back. Shakes a dude to pick up a first down. The gain of 13. Hayden again. Little stunner step. And he's able to pick up. You might need him as a personal protector on that sideline. A reach for the goal line and in. Touchdown for Chase Hayden. The freshman's got his first score of his career. Here's Nance again. Started his career as a defensive back at Southern Miss. And he's able to pick up the first down. Here comes pressure. Allen. Here's Williams. Williams in the eye behind Hayden Johnson. Dump it off to the tight end, Cheyenne O'Grady, and he's in. Another Arkansas
in this 3-4, that's what you want as a linebacker. Just go sideline to sideline. That's the big difference from the 4 to the 4.
Did you see anything that you guys need to work on for next week's prep for TCU?
I mean, they're gonna give us the same look as Florida A&M did, like zone reads. We just gotta get back in, just find out what they do different in this upcoming game.
Feel good to get out there and just have the kind of debut you guys did defensively.
Yeah, it felt good to just go out there against a different opponent. I mean, we've been doing this in January against the offense, so it felt good tackling another team.
You guys were able to make plays defensively and keep them off the scoreboard till late.
I mean, that's what we try. That's what we want to do. That's a goal for us. I mean, at the end, they scored just some miscommunication with the young guys. But as far as overall performance, I really like what the defense did.
Feel you guys got pretty good pressure today?
Yeah, I feel we got pretty good pressure. I mean, next week is going to be harder. The team next week is more talented than this week, so we're going to prepare and get ready for that.
You were around the football a lot today. I guess that's your job, though. What do you think about
Coach Hargraves always emphasized if we don't make the play, then just think about nobody not making that play. So I just have to be around the ball. Like you say, just be close to the ball. Play that's being made.
How do you feel those guys on the outside did, kind of transition into that?
From last year, the big difference was not setting the edge. I felt like the outside linebackers in the edge set the edge, and they did their jobs on the offensive tackles, and they gave us inside linebackers enough room to run and make plays on the other side of the field.
Pulley's out for a while. How good do you think those other guys will be?
We're not worrying about this next man up. I'm pretty confident to Cam and Chevin, Brito, and the rest of the young guys. So, they had a pretty good performance today, so I think we're going to be all right.
Speak on the energy that Coach Rhodes brings to this new defensive scheme. Seems like you got a lot of explosive players, and you guys finally kind of get to turn loose. How does that feel?
You always have to have energy as a defense. We want to be the best defense in the nation, so we always have to be energized. Every play, just take one play at a time, and Coach Rhodes will never let us forget about that.
Did the speed really show up? The difference in the speed you guys have defensively?
The speed showed up today. But it's been like that since we started in this 3-4 transition. So it showed up big time tonight.
Welcome back to our YouTube live stream of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk, brought to you here each and every day. I want to let everybody know this segment is brought to you by Lindsay & Associates, with locations in Fayetteville, also 2 in Rogers. This segment is also, brought to you by Locomotion. Looking for a place to take kids? Check out Locomotion. It's located in Fayetteville, just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall. And if you don't get a chance to check out our live stream on here, on our YouTube live stream of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk TV, you can go check us out on our podcast. Go to iHeartRadio, and you can listen to our show in its entirety each and every day. Came in with audio of sophomore inside linebacker Dijon Harris. We call him Scooter around these parts. Dijon talked about just how he felt, how the defense felt as a whole with the performance. Talked about, their junior cornerback Ryan Pulley and the confidence that he has within that defensive back group with the true freshman Brito Tutt, Chevin Callaway, and also Cameron Curl. And talked about the energy, and we keep going back to it, Demetrius. I want to bring you in. They keep talking about the love that they have for playing for Coach Rhodes and just the energy that he brings. Coach Hargraves, John Scott Jr., and Chad Walker. How important, I can't stress enough or ask you, is that when kids love who they're playing for? We heard Andre Tolliver in the opening segment say you don't want to let people down that you respect and genuinely love and want to play for. How big is that in your opinion? You played football, I played football, but just you can't express enough to the listeners, and I want to get your take on that. What say you?
I think it's huge when you're talking about just having motivation when you're tired, just when you're down or when you mess up. You know that person is holding you accountable, and they hold you of high regard if they're starting you. So I think that whole entire defense staff is really what's going to be the heart and soul of this year's Arkansas football team. You kind of seen it on last night with the offense kind of coming out struggling. The defense was the hype man, we should say. Guys making really big plays, guys making turnovers. It's been a while since I've seen a scoop and score from Arkansas. The last big defensive plays we've seen was from Brooks Ellis when he got the interception. Wow. Plays like that we really don't see a lot from Arkansas defenses. So just to see, Andre get the scoop and scores really just gives me motivation and hope that these guys are really going to make some big plays. They're really going to have good field possession. They're really going to give offenses really trouble. I think the good thing about it that Dijon really kind of mentioned was just the offensive scheme, understanding that, it's really just guys understanding where they're supposed to be. Guys are really comfortable with what they're doing this year, and I think that's really what's going to bring the most out of these guys is that they're comfortable, and they're comfortable with the people that they're playing for.
And I know, I've heard, and you've heard throughout spring ball, also fall camp, the stress and emphasis that they put on, creating turnovers, being able to score. Coach Paul Rhodes, definitely wants to see the defense to be able to, put points on the board to help the offense. And I think whenever you're able to add defensive points, you look at Alabama last year, there was a constant record each and every day. It seemed like if they weren't scoring, you thought something was wrong defensively, as they had one of the elite defenses. And it was based on and predicated on they were able to create turnovers. And I think that's what Arkansas did. You saw the energy that it brought even more when Andre was able to scoop and score and run it in from 18 yards out. The hustle plays, just the energy. I mean, it seems like this team defensively chases the ball better than any defense I've seen, since Coach Brett Bielema has been the head football coach, and I attribute that to Paul Rhodes, as I said, Vernon Hargrave, John Scott Jr., and Chad Walker. They just seem to add an extra confidence, and you can see this defense is playing with a certain type of swag. I thought that McTelvin Sosa again played a really good football game. You talk about the nose guards. I thought Bijan Jackson, I thought Austin Capps, I thought Dylan Hayes really were able to control the two gaps. You talk about that. We spoke, on our ride down extensively, Demetrius, about the importance, and you heard it all week about just what the nose guard has to be in this 3-4 scheme, and I thought they played their role very adequately. And if they can continue to play at that spot the way they did, now on the flip side of this, offense, it wasn't the prettiest of games, but to be able to go out and score 42 points, I still think you have to be excited if you're Coach Dan Enos and that offensive staff, that you can play better, and you're probably going to be expected to play better. The wide receivers will have to be relied on more in this upcoming game versus TCU. Demetrius, you and I both know the level of competition steps up, and so does the level of expectations at that wide receiver spot. You can't just rely on the running backs to have to get it done. If you do that, it could be a long day. Nick Saturday and Dollar W. Reynolds, but speak on that. Didn't play well offensively. You and I both, we understand that. You were really critical of them, which, points were well, and much deserved. How much of an impact does the wide receiver core, have to improve from week 1 to week 2 for Arkansas to have some success against a very experienced, very seasoned TCU defense?
Again, it's not really that I'm concerned about the wide receivers. I think they really didn't have too many opportunities to really make plays. There was a play that I thought, or I was expecting Brandon Martin. There was a pass by Cole Kelly where he led him. I was expected to really make a hustle play there. It was a bad thrown ball or a lead thrown ball, but I think it was a play that of Brandon Martin's physical capabilities. I think it was a play he should have made, and that was guys I was really expected to come in there and really make a big impact. I did like what I saw from T.J. Hemmings. I think he really came out, was very explosive. I think he shocked a lot of people.
Right.
I think he did a little bit too much pity patting. What I mean by that there was times where he should have just stuck his foot in the ground and went north and south, but he was going left and right. So other than that, I'm really confident in the receiving core. It's really more so that offensive line. I think that's really where the concern is. I think once the offensive line gels together, everything else is going to fall into place, because I know we have the speed. I know we have the athleticism. I think we have that's where majority of the talent. And let's not forget the tight ends, when we're talking about the receiving core. I think, again, once that
good point.
Offensive line kind of gels together, you're really going to see the excitement and the rave that Dan Enos and Brett Bielema has been talking about all season, about taking the top off of guys, having a different level of speed, or not really concerned about replacing Keon. I think he really found guys like LaMichael Petway. He really did make an impact. But again, some of the routes that they ran and in combination routes that they ran weren't really extravagant. So I'm really expecting to see an entirely different offensive scheme and offensive attack coming into this TCU game.
Well, it's picks time. Let's get it ready. We got about 2.5 minutes before we conclude this week's of shows of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk. And I'm going to start it up, Demetrius. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's get it. First game, Vanderbilt travels to Murfreesboro to take on Middle Tennessee. Who you got?
I'm going to have to go with Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt's going to surprise a lot of people in the SEC. I think they're going to be a sleeper team along with South Carolina. But I think that's another program that I think is really on the, or I should say, is really trending upward. So I'm really excited about them.
I'm going with Vanderbilt myself. Second game, Missouri hosts in-state rival, Missouri State.
Definitely. I think that's another game that's an FCS game, if I'm not mistaken. But I think it's a game that's really going to have Missouri fans excited. I know there's a few freshmen from around this town, and Taylor and Akil that's going to be on that team. So I'm really excited. I don't know where they're at exactly on that roster, but I know that Missouri's definitely got a few transfers that came in from Texas that I think is really going to be an impact. So I definitely have to give the game to Missouri, and I'm really expecting them to really shock a few teams in the West too as well this year.
I'm going with Missouri as well. Game number 3. Mississippi State hosts Charleston Southern in Starkville, Mississippi.
Definitely. I think Mississippi State is going to dominate. I think that's another warm-up game. That they're just going to go out and kind of get tighten up defensively and offensively and special team-wise.
I'm going with Mississippi State. Next game, Ole Miss hosts South Alabama. Who you got?
I'm definitely going to have to go with Ole Miss. I don't think this team is up to their caliber talent-wise. I know there's a lot of turmoil going down there with all the sanctions and investigations going on down there and with the new head coach. But I think these guys still have enough talent, more than enough talent to really get the job done.
We've got about 2 minutes. Let's be real quick. Let's go Georgia, Appalachian State.
I have to definitely go Georgia.
I'm going Georgia. Auburn, Georgia Southern.
Definitely have to go Auburn.
I'm going Auburn. Let's go Kentucky, Southern Miss.
I have to go Kentucky.
Let's go South Carolina, North Carolina State.
South Carolina.
LSU, BYU.
LSU.
Let's go on our big games. Florida State, Alabama.
I still have to give it to old Nick Saban.
All right. Florida, Michigan.
I'm going to go Michigan.
I'm going to go Florida. Let's take our Sunday game. Texas A&M versus UCLA.
I'll go Texas A&M. I think the defense is going to get the job done.
I'm going to go UCLA. Lastly, our Monday night game, Tennessee and Georgia Tech.
I'm going to go Georgia Tech.
Well, that's going to wrap it up. We want to thank our sponsors, Lindsay & Associates, with locations in Fayetteville, also 2 in Rogers. Locomotion, located in Fayetteville, just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall. If you don't check us out here, you can always go check us out on our podcast, iHeartRadio. We'll not be here on Monday as we're going to take the day off. We'll be back Tuesday. You guys have a great weekend. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins. Have a blessed one.
You ready to get off, wasn't you?
2 o'clock.